In this video, we will factor trinomials with a leading coefficient of 1 using the grouping method. First, let's take a look at the diamond puzzles that we practiced in class. Our objective is to complete the sides of the puzzle. The number in the top of the diamond is what the two sides add to. The bottom number is what the two sides multiply to. It's the product. So we have to figure out what these two numbers are. Our strategy we're going to use to solve that is we're going to take this 16 and we're going to make a factor tree. So what multiplies to get 16? So start with 1. 1 times 16. 2 times 8. 3 doesn't go. 4 does. 4 times 4. When we start to repeat ourselves, we know our factor tree is done. Now I have to look at these factors and figure out a combination of those that would get me a negative 8 when I add them. Well, a 4 and a 4 would, as long as they're both negative. So let's check our work. A negative 4 times negative 4 is a positive 16. Negative 4 plus negative 4 is a negative 8. I want you guys to complete 2, 3, 4, and 5 using that factor tree for that bottom number. Now we're going to use this diamond to help us factor trinomials. Remember, a trinomial has 3 terms. Notice in all of these trinomials, our leading coefficient, that means the first coefficient of x squared, is 1. So in order to factor these trinomials, we're going to use that diamond. The numbers we're going to place in there are this 12 is what we need to multiply to, and the 7 is what we need to add to. Now I need to figure out factors of 12 that add to 7. So the factors of 12, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. So a combination of those that will add to 7 are 3 and 4. Now what I can do with the 3 and the 4 is actually split the middle term. So I'm going to take that 7x and I'm going to split it into a 3x and a 4x. What I notice now is that I have 4 terms. So now I can use the grouping method. So grouping your first 2 terms and your last 2 terms. What can I pull out of x squared and 3x? I can pull out an x. And I'm left with x plus 3. What do 4x and 12 have in common? They have a 4 in common, and I'm left with x plus 3. Now from our grouping method, I can bring together my factors. I can have x plus 4 and x plus 3. So now I've factored that trinomial. These two factors, x plus 4 and x plus 3, if we were to multiply them together, we would get x squared plus 7x plus 12. Notice the numbers that we ended up with in our binomials here at the end, a 4 and a 3. Those were the numbers that multiplied together to be 12, but added to be 7. These next 3 I want you to try on your own. Here I have x squared plus 2x minus 8. I need to use the diamond to figure out my factors. So the number that I multiply to has to be the negative 8. So that goes on the bottom of my diamond. The number that I have to add to needs to be the positive 2. Now I have to figure out my factors of 8. 1 times 8, 2 times 4. What combination of these could give me a positive 2? Well, if I take the 2 and the 4, if the 4 is positive and the 2 is negative, they multiply to be negative 8 and add to be positive 2. Now I can use the green numbers here to split the middle. So I bring down the x squared. I split the middle into a positive 4x minus 2x and bring down the negative 8. Now I factor by grouping. I can pull out an x from the first set, and I need to pull out a negative 2 from the second set. Then bring together your factors. x minus 2, and x plus 4. Notice if I were to check my work and multiply these back, I would get x squared plus 2x minus 8. These other three problems are on your own. Next, I have b squared minus 2b minus 63. I'm going to multiply to get the 63, negative 63, and add to get negative 2. So my factor tree, 1 times 63, 3 times 21, 7 times 9. What combination of these two factors, 1 and 63 won't work, 3 and 21 won't work, 9 and 7 will work? If I have a negative 9 and a positive 7. So now I split the middle. B squared minus 9b plus 7b minus 63. Notice I'm using those numbers that I got out of my diamond. Now I'm going to factor by grouping. B can be pulled out of the first two terms and left with b minus 9. 7 can be pulled out of the second two terms and I'm left with b minus 9. Then I bring my factors together, b plus 7 and b minus 9. These next three problems are on your own. Here I have y squared minus 17y plus 72. I'm going to place my numbers in my diamond. I need to multiply to get 72 and add to be negative 17. My factor tree for 72 is a little bit longer this time. So I need to look at my pairs of factors and decide which ones are going to give me 17. Well, 6 and 12, that would make 18 or 6. 4 and 18, that would make 14. If I subtracted them or added them, that would be 22. So as I look through, I see 8 and 9, if I were to add them together, would get 17. So how could I make them equal a positive 72 but negative 17? That would have to mean that they were both negative. So when I multiply a negative times a negative, I get a positive, but when I add them together, I get a negative 17. Now I can split the middle. So I have y squared minus 9y minus 8y plus 72. Notice how when I split the middle, if I were to work backwards, negative 9 minus 8 would get me the negative 17y. So I'm just using that negative 17 and splitting it into the factors that I need. Now I can pull out my GCF from each group and bring together my factors, y minus 8 times y minus 9. These other three problems are on your own. This last set of problems, I want you to really look at first if we can pull out a GCF. Notice that 4n squared plus 12n plus 8. It has a leading coefficient of 4. Do all three terms have 4 in common? They do. That means that we can divide that out. So first, I'm going to pull out that GCF so that I'm left with the trinomial n squared plus 3n plus 2. This is now the trinomial that I can use for my diamond. We need to multiply to get a 2, but add to get a 3. So the only factors of 2 are 1 and 2. So 1 and 2 multiply together to get 2, but add to get 3. Now I can split the middle, and I'm splitting the 3n up into 2n and n. Bring down the n squared and the 2, and the 4, that's our GCF. We need to carry that with it because it is a factor of that polynomial. Now pull out GCFs from n squared and 2n, and from n plus 2. So then bring together your factors, and you have your 4 that was your GCF to begin with, n plus 1, and n plus 2. Look for the GCFs in these before you factor that trinomial.